Welcome to Advertising Champions, your go-to destination for insights into the dynamic world of advertising. I'm your host, Tony Stanol, and today we're with Lee St. James of Openly Gray. Welcome, Lee.
Hey, Tony, how are you?
Great. Thanks for being here. Now, I've known you over the years as a legendary creative director. Why don't you walk us through your background a little bit, and then we'll get into what you're up to these days.
No, that's very sweet of you, Tony. Legendary sounds like a big word. Yes, I've been lucky. I told somebody just the other day that I think I had a wonderful, wonderful career in advertising. Changed so dramatically since we were in it, in the thick of it, which happened pretty much at the end of COVID, or at the beginning of COVID. The world changed dramatically for so many of us. And but prior to that, of course, I had been at Publicis and Saatchi and TBWA and TBWA Chiat and Ketchum and Havas. It seems like almost everybody kicked me out the door at one point in time or the other. But I managed to hold on a long time.
Right. And we're here to mostly talk about Openly Gray. So explain it to me. I'm not fully sure what it is. You said it's relatively new, a couple months old.
Yes. Openly Gray. That's us. Camera left. Anyway, so not long after COVID hit, I left Havas. That was my last big deal gig. I'd been heading up the Sanofi insulin portfolio for Havas Health and You and Tonic and a couple of the other machinations that is Havas. And then COVID struck, and a friend of mine, Ted Perrick, who I think you know, Tony, Ted, he and I set out and we started doing a thing called Now Applied Imagination. And at that point in time, there were so many people who were flooding, there were people who didn't have jobs. They decided they would open creative boutiques, et cetera, et cetera. And we did that for a while. We limped along, weren't really quite making what we wanted to do with the company or from a financial standpoint. And then a good friend of mine, Lee Brody, who I've known for decades out of Ketchum, Pittsburgh, he called me up out of the blue and said, let's piece business. I said, fine, let's do that. And we did. We had a nice 7-month run. It was a little thing, but it was like, oh, that was fun. Let's do that again. And so then we started talking about what we didn't want to do. And what we didn't want to do is be another studio or another creative boutique or another consultancy or whatever. So we started looking for what the white space for us would be. And it turned out to be the gray space. So hence Openly Gray was born. And Openly Gray is not really an anti-ageism company. I mean, we absolutely do not agree with any ism of any nature, but our business model is not about combating anti-ageism. Our business model is actually to get brands and brand managers, CEOs, CMOs, CFOs, any O that needs to know that they're leaving 80% of the wealth in the United States and UK on the market by not advertising at all or barely to the 50 plus segment. So that's where the focus is for Openly Gray. We're actually talking to brands and their owners to try to get them to look at the wisdom of walking away or at least adjacent to 17 to 49-year-old target audiences to start talking to 50 plus target audiences. The simple fact is that's where the money is.
We have a couple of moments left. I told you this would go fast, but tell us like one of the initiatives or one of the eye-opening facts that you were able to impart into the CEOs or the powers that be.
Well, the top line, the super quick things is it's 125 million strong populations. The only growing segment in America or the UK in terms of getting bigger. Used to be we'd go for a 17 to 49-year-old audience. We'll get them early. They'll keep them for life, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Well, that's not the way it works anymore. It still works that way on one hand for certain kind of brands, but there are so many other opportunities out there. We're talking $8 trillion in assets that the 50 plus, and that means boomers and Gen X combined, $8 trillion worth of spending. And that's money that's just being left on the table. And as best we can tell, simply because the brands are either unawares, which I'm not sure that that's true, but they just don't want to market to 50 plus year olds. Yet 50 plus year olds are in fact more loyal, do in fact have more cash, and willing to spend it. And by the way, they're the ones paying for their children's homes, cars, everything else. So why would we not at least acknowledge them, right? We were on the phone with a client the other day, and she said, "Oh yeah, I still have one on the payroll, a 26-year-old, on the payroll." And that's the life that we're facing right now. So along with data and technology and all those things that a lot of people seem to think that 50 plus year old people don't have a clue about, which again is not true. There seems to be a lot of built-in reasons not to advertise to the 50 plus audience, but there's at least 125 million reasons that you should, and 8 trillion cash reasons that you should consider this. And we're not talking about taking over your entire brand. We just want a piece of it, much like a multicultural agency. If you were going to speak specifically to a BIPOC community, you might go get a BIPOC agency. So with us, if you
well said. And as the famous bank robber Willie Sutton said when asked, "Why do you rob banks?" That's where the money is. So you've got a compelling case. Yep. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Tony. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Advertising Champions. You could find more like it at dailynewsnetwork.com. And we'll see you next time.
We've been around for 16 years, working with clients, with thousands of clients. We're working with agencies to be able to scale them and grow them and provide them services that would cost them way more than it would for them to do it themselves. Anything oriented around lead generation, video creation, web design, we're full service, so we can really serve most people.